I've diagnosed this failure in organizations from 40-person startups to 300-person engineering teams, and the symptom always looks like a people problem, but it never is. If your team still needs your permission for routine decisions, you're not a leader, you're a load-bearing node, and the fix is not what you think it is. The fix is structural, and most leadership advice gets it completely wrong. Meet Priya. She's an engineering manager. She's sharp. She's 6 years in, and her team hits every sprint commitment. Monday morning, Mark, her lead engineer, hits a scoping question on a new API contract. Mark could make that call. He's done it before. But Priya's only 10 feet away, right over there, and her door is always open. So Mark pings her. Hey, quick question. Should we proceed with this contract structure? Priya takes 90 seconds to answer the question, and Mark, he's back at his desk. It feels efficient. Tuesday, Mark finds 2 ways to handle a vendor specification. He's leaning towards one, but instead of committing, he pings Priya. I want to make sure that we're aligned. She weighs in, and 2 minutes later, it's finished. By Friday, it's 5 more pings. Same reflex from Mark. Same answer from Priya. Mark didn't make 6 decisions that week. Nope. Priya did. You can already see the pattern. Each interruption is reasonable. Yes. Each one feels like collaboration. Yes. But stack them up, and here's what you've actually built. Priya is now a human operating system. Every decision that doesn't have a routing rule gets manually processed through her. 6 months ago, that question was an action Mark handled himself. Now it's a meeting, a Slack thread, or even a walk to Priya's desk. She didn't build a team that owns outcomes. She built a team that routes questions. This is not, and I repeat, this is not a talent problem. Mark is very competent, and Priya is very productive. But the problem is that Priya has built a permission system disguised as leadership. Her team doesn't lack the ability to decide. They lack the authority to act without checking in first. And Priya thinks that she's being helpful. She's not. She's being necessary. See, her calendar is a graveyard of 15-minute interruptions that each felt like good leadership at the time. If you add those up, and she's processing 40 decisions a week that Mark could have handled on his own. Priya was promoted for execution excellence. Now she executes other people's decisions for them. That's not management. That's middleware. Research from CEB Global shows 60% of new managers fail within their first 24 months. Not because they lack skill, because the instincts that made them excellent individual contributors become the trap that keeps them stuck. Your team isn't stuck because they can't decide. They're stuck because they're waiting for permission. You see, if you answer every question that lands in your Slack, you're just not leading. You're validating a dependency that you built. The standard advice is backwards, by the way. Delegate more. Empower your team. Priya already tells Mark, hey man, you own this. But Mark, he still asks. Because ownership without boundaries, it's just a word. There are 3 reasons that this breaks. Let's talk about them. The illusion of delegation, where saying you own it means nothing if you still answer when they ask. The invisible guardrail, where Mark doesn't know where his authority ends, so he escalates to stay safe. And the competence tax, where Mark second guesses himself because every past call got refined or overridden. Delegation without boundaries is the trap. Here's the actual fix for it. It's structural, and it's going to feel wrong at first. The fastest way to prove yourself promotable is to make yourself less necessary. That means defining the decisions your team can make without you, writing the guardrails that keep those decisions safe, and then stopping yourself from answering when they ask. Priya did this with Mark in 3 specific domains. Before, Mark escalated every release decision. After, Priya handed him 4 guardrails. All automated tests pass. There is no unresolved critical security issue. Rollback is available if something goes wrong. Expected customer impact stays below the agreed threshold. Now, if all 4 of those are true, then Mark decides, and Priya doesn't even need to hear about it. If any one is false, it escalates. There's no ambiguity there. There's no permission needed inside the boundary. That's very important. Before every tool choice landed on Priya's desk. After Mark got those 4 guardrails. No unapproved handling of sensitive data. No material licensing risk. No unsupported technology added to critical systems. No recurring cost above the preset budget without escalation. Inside those lines, Mark picks what he wants. Priya doesn't choose his tools anymore. She only reviews exceptions. Make sense? Before, every scope cut went through Priya when delivery was at risk. After, Mark had 3 lines that he couldn't cross. He cannot change the committed business outcome. He cannot drop regulatory requirements, and he cannot break customer promises. Inside of those lines, he can change implementation details, cut non-essential features, or swap one approach for another that delivers the same result faster. Priya no longer arbitrates every scope conversation. When Mark asks, "Can we proceed?" she redirects him to the guardrails. The test's passed. Rollback is ready. He already has his answer. He makes the call, and then he documents it. If Mark comes back with an exception, that's an entirely different situation. But routine decisions that sit inside the domain are no longer Priya's job. They're Mark's. This is what a real decision domain looks like. It is not a title, and it's not a motivational speech about ownership. It's a written boundary with clear criteria, attached authority, and real consequences for crossing it. When Mark operates inside his domain, he is not asking for permission. He is executing a decision he already owns. Before Priya defined Mark's decision domains, Mark made 3 independent decisions in a typical week and escalated 12. After 4 weeks with written domains, Mark made 18 independent decisions and he only escalated 3. Priya moved from answering questions to reviewing outcomes. This is the leadership signal that matters. When Priya's skip level sees her team running without her in the loop on every routine decision, they stop seeing a task manager and start seeing a system builder. Directors aren't evaluated on how many decisions they personally handle. They're evaluated on how many decisions their team handles correctly without them. The permission system was draining Mark's autonomy and burying Priya in operational noise she was never supposed to carry. The fix was not Priya managing better. It was her making herself unnecessary so she could actually lead. That's the shift that makes you promotable. Building a system where your team operates without your permission so that you can operate at the next level. Here's what kills most managers who try this. Priya implements the domains. Week 1, Mark makes a call she would have made differently, and she corrects him. Week 2, Mark makes a borderline call. Priya overrules him, but just this once. Week 3, you guessed it, Mark stops deciding. The permission system is rebuilt in 3 corrections. You cannot build decision domains and then override them when you disagree. The boundary is the system. If you puncture it, you just prove the boundary was never real, and your team learns a lot faster than you think. Mark doesn't need 3 corrections to know the game hasn't changed. He needs just 1. The real test, it's really simple. Ask yourself whether performance could continue if you just disappeared for 2 weeks. You know, if the answer is no, you don't have a system. You have a dependency. And dependencies, they don't get promoted. They get maintained. Priya stopped being a load-bearing node. 4 weeks later, her skip level noticed she was spending her time on architecture, not Slack pings. 6 months later, guess what? She got promoted. Not because she worked harder, because she made herself less necessary. You see, that's the paradox. The fastest way up is to build a system that doesn't need you to run it. If your team still needs your permission for routine decisions, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not a leader. You're a load-bearing node. Build that system. Hand over those domains, then move on up. If you just recognized your week in Priya story, subscribe to the channel. We fix this stuff every week. Now, get to work.